Have you gone through the channels, or
we're doing
just posting videos? I mean,
aren't you supposed to be on suspension? Are they cutting you? They doing you a favor? I've got some eye-opening new information and some updates in reference to the internal investigation into now suspended and demoted from captain to lieutenant Sherif Elshami of the Orange City Police Department of Florida. You will not believe what I'm about to show you. You'll believe it because we already know it, but all agencies deny it. But now it's admitted in writing. Most of you should be aware, but this was the police captain who was told by one of his officers that another one of his officers was actively stalking an ex by using not just hidden tracking devices, but these confidential police computer databases. At the time, there were also battery claims. At the time, Captain Elshami got this information and did nothing. The accused officer was later charged and terminated, later sentenced to 5 years felony probation. But a new investigation kicked off into why Elshami had this information and decided to do nothing with it, and his chief and the rest of the department only found out a month later when I told them. So I'm going to show you the end findings of this internal investigation, the discipline, what appears to me to be continued lies, as well as proof of what I always say about many departments. If the public doesn't know about something, they sweep it away. And the only time we might see accountability is if the public knows about it. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on as we get into this. I know it's public now. I just don't have it yet. I was just asking, did he tell the truth about everything this time? Was he untruthful in the initial investigation?
No, not at all.
So, and what were the charges?
You'll see that when you get the copy of it.
So he wasn't untruthful in the initial investigation about not coming forward?
No, not at all.
Do you remember?
None of that came up in the investigation with the sheriff's office. So.
Didn't he say it was peer support, which is why he didn't say anything the first time? Ultimately, why did he sit on the information? That's what we're... When you had
it's not that he sat on the information, he didn't take action.
Right.
He didn't take action, and that's what the discipline is for.
But did you know? Did you know about it? Did he tell you about it?
No, I didn't know about it. No,
so that's what I mean.
Not at all.
He sat on it, and we'll never know if he intended to take action or not. So as a result of the investigation into Elshami, he was found to have violated 4 department policies. Sustained violations were authority and responsibility, professional conduct, neglect of duty, which would cover his failure to act, and ethical standards for police conduct. Now, according to the chief in this investigation, he says they were contacted on November 8th of 2024 by an outside agency, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, where, if you remember, the victim made a report there as well. The victim had filed a stalking and a battery complaint against former Officer Brown with that agency, and the agency then contacted the Orange City Police Department to tell them of these stalking claims and the fact that they believe he's using the traffic camera systems, among other police databases, to stalk his ex. I went to the Orange City Police Department the same day. Now, this is 1 month after Elshami was told of all of these accusations by another officer in the beginning of October. But nobody had any clue what I was talking about because Elshami hadn't told anybody and hadn't done anything. Now, former Officer Shadrach King had gone to Elshami in the beginning of October and said, "Hey, I have a problem. I know that Officer Brown is using these computers to stalk his ex. I've seen him do it. He's told me about it." And allegedly Elshami said, "Ooh, that's a big deal. We got to look into that." However, he did nothing, and his claim is that this conversation with Officer King was merely peer support, which is protected from disclosure. It's confidential. Elshami says he didn't look at it as somebody reporting something. He looked at it as somebody saying, "What should I do about this?" "Well, Captain, what did you tell him he should do? Go to his captain and tell him?" So that excuse seems untruthful or extremely ignorant. Now, the best part is when we're going to get into Elshami's addendum, basically his response to his discipline. We'll get to that in just a minute. And at the end of this video, I'll show these full reports on the screen if you want to screenshot them or whatever, or you can email me and I'll send you your own file. But one of my problems with the chief's claims in this investigation and his final report is he claims that he didn't find out that Elshami knew about this and did nothing until March of 2025. This absolutely can't be, because I personally made them aware in November 2024. While Elshami was investigated as part of the stalking investigation, he was asked by investigators if he knew of these activities, these stalking activities and this computer misusage. And he said, "Yeah, I heard a rumor. We could do a quick audit." And again, this is in March of 2025 when he was told about it in the very beginning of October. The chief's report goes on to say he's very disappointed in Elshami, and he discusses his discipline, where he will be demoted from captain to lieutenant and receive a 160-hour suspension, unpaid. Now, in reference to his claim that when Officer King had come to him, where Elshami claimed this was just peer support, I sent a copy of this report to former Officer King, and I asked him if he had any comment. And he said the only comment that he has is, quote, "Sherif Elshami got off easy. I wish he would have been criminally charged, because that would have sent a message that covering up criminal activity, especially within a police organization, shouldn't be tolerated. In my eyes, he got off very easy, and instead of whining about the repercussions of his own actions, he should think twice the next time he chooses to ignore a crime." And King has told us several times in the past that that conversation was not peer support, and it was, in fact, him going to his superior to let him know of criminal activity by a fellow officer. One of the many problems with the defense of peer support is that generally, yes, peer support is exempt from disclosure, it's confidential, but there are exceptions. One of these exceptions is when there are crimes reported. Somehow, for some reason, an officer of 18 years that at the time was a captain at least claims that he didn't perceive any crimes. Stalking and use of these computer databases for the purposes of stalking or any other purpose is a felony. So I don't know if he's using that as an excuse or if it's ignorance. Either way, not a good look. And I mentioned he was demoted from captain to lieutenant and also got a 30-day or 160-hour suspension unpaid. But they also did him a big favor there. They broke it up for him so he doesn't have to serve it consecutively. Because that's pretty harsh. To me, this definitely seems like a blue line privilege and not a courtesy they would extend to the public. I don't think so anyway. But even still, Elshami was very displeased and feels like he's being treated unfairly. And in his response, he's going to prove something that we've said many times to many agencies. Agencies always deny that if the public doesn't know what's going on internally, they don't deal with it appropriately. And there is only accountability if the public knows and there's public pressure. He also makes some accusations against the chief, so let's get into that. He writes, "I believe the discipline imposed, demotion and a 160-hour suspension, was both severe and disproportionate. I waived my right to due process hearing, not because I accepted full responsibility without defense, but because of the strong implications made during my meeting with Chief Wayne Miller on July 14, 2025, that exercising my rights could result in termination." He goes on to explain that in that meeting with the chief said some things that made him feel that if he exercises his rights and he challenges this, he'll be fired. So he waived his rights and accepted the imposed discipline under considerable duress. I don't know if you guys can smell it, but I smell like he might be working on a lawsuit here. But now he gets into examples where he talks about previous incidents from the agency, things that the public weren't aware of, the public weren't involved in or giving public pressure, and he says were handled much lightly. Personally, I agree with these claims. However, he says these instances were examples of things that employees did that were much worse than what he did. One example was a member of administration having a long-term intimate relationship with a subordinate, and the other was another male member of administration making a claim or making a comment, "That's hot," in reference to a female employee. While both of these things are not good, I don't think they rise to even nearly the same level of knowing about stalking and using the police computers for stalking and doing nothing about it. Officer King also previously claimed that after all of this came out and it was discovered that Elshami knew about it and did nothing, he claimed in a one-on-one conversation with King that he did intend to look into it but wanted to wait until after the holidays. This he did not admit in any investigations or interviews. But he definitely downplays what he did. He says, "In contrast, I delayed an audit in a case where no actionable information was initially available," which, come on now. He goes on, "When the First Amendment auditor, me, presented the information, I addressed it accordingly. Yet I received a harsher penalty than those who committed more egregious policy violations." So he's claiming that even though he knew about it, but claims that was under peer support, later, when I published a story about it, then he started looking into it. Get out of here with this. And he didn't, really, because action wasn't taken until much after I started making this public. He goes on about his history at the agency, and he claims that they are stacking more charges, more policy violations against him, and this raises concerns about fairness and consistency. Historically, employees receiving lengthy suspensions have only been required to serve a small portion. This courtesy was not extended to me, further indicating that I was treated differently. It is difficult to ignore the timing and public visibility of my incident, especially with the First Amendment auditors bringing attention to it. I believe the disciplinary decision was influenced by external pressure and that I was used as an example to demonstrate accountability to the public, despite the above infractions receiving less scrutiny and consequences. Very literally, exactly what he's saying here is he was only held accountable, and this was only handled appropriately because of the attention that I brought to this case and because of public pressure for the agency to do the right thing. What he's also saying is, as a member of administration of the department, he's aware and has been aware that other incidents that he thinks are worse than this were not appropriately handled and were too lightly handled because nobody knew about it. And he apparently was okay with it then and spoke up never, only speaks up now because he didn't receive the identical blue line treatment. That is exactly what he's saying right there. Tell me if I'm wrong. I have said these things to this agency. I've said it to many agencies. I've asked them to be more openly transparent about their internal investigations, and they don't want to do it, and this is why they don't want to do it. Because they would have preferred to either just let this slide or handle it very delicately, impose very delicate punishments. But the public was watching. Not only does all of this prove what I've been saying, what many of us have been saying, but it demonstrates the absolute need for the people to be involved in their local government, in their public agencies, pull records, find out what internal investigations are going on. It's proof that if people are not policing the police, then nobody is. And they need to hold themselves just as accountable as they hold the people who do not get blue line privilege. So it sounds to me like there might be some infighting there over this. Elshami doesn't seem pleased with the chief, and the chief doesn't seem pleased with him. And I can't imagine that tension. But to Elshami, it sounds like you have things to talk about, and if you ever want to reach out, you know that it will be fully confidential. TwistedLuckMedia@gmail.com. And there's a lot more to this here. I wanted to make it as short as I can because informational videos, I know, are not as exciting, but the information in this one is insane and has to be shared. I'll close out this video by putting these documents up on the screen so you can screenshot, pause and read, whatever you want to do. Or you too can email me at twistedluckmedia@gmail.com and put Orange City in the subject line, and I will send you your own copy of these documents. Be sure you're subscribed. We've got lots of stories going on and more things always unfold and come up. Make sure that your notifications are on so you can be the first to be notified when the next display of dipshittery and shenanigans is published.